From Venus to Mars, Sex Education in the High School Curriculum. So last summer, while I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my project, I came across an episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, where he discussed sex education in the United States. And one thing he said in that episode that really stood out to me was that only 22 states mandate that sex education be taught in schools, and only 13 require that the education or the information taught in those classes be medically accurate. And that was crazy to me. How could a subject so important and so vital to making sure that young adults are able to make healthy and informed decisions about themselves and their bodies be left so unstandardized and unregulated? And it also made me reflect on my 9th grade health class experience, where my peers and I received no form of sex education. And so this led me to my research question. What does sex education look like in the United States? And what forms of sex education are most effective at reaching key goals, such as increasing the age of first sexual intercourse, decreasing teen pregnancy and STI rates, and increasing the use of contraceptives among teenagers? As I began my research, I quickly found that although sex education programs can vary greatly in what they teach due to the lack of standards, almost all can be categorized as either abstinence-only or abstinence plus. Abstinence-only education, like its name suggests, teaches students that abstinence is the only certain way to prevent pregnancy and the spread of STIs, and it doesn't teach teenagers about the many contraceptives available to them. There's been a recent step away from abstinence-only education due to research that suggests it's ineffective. Many studies have been done on the programs that receive federal funding under abstinence-only education, and none were able to prove that they are effective at reaching the key goals of sex education. In addition to being ineffective, abstinence-only education may also include medical inaccuracies that leave students confused about their sex and their bodies. In an investigation conducted for and published by U.S. Representative Henry Waxman, 85% of federally funded abstinence-only programs studied were found to contain medical inaccuracies about the risk of abortions, the risk of sexual activity, the effectiveness of birth control, and the prevention of sexually transmitted infections. There is also concern that abstinence-only education may create feelings of shame, especially among young women, due to its emphasis that you must be abstinent until marriage. In one abstinence-only program, a non-virgin on her wedding night is compared to a dirty, used tennis shoe. In another, a girl is compared to chewed-up gum. This message can be very damaging for teenagers, especially victims of sexual assault. The alternative to abstinence-only programs are abstinence plus, or fully comprehensive sex education. These programs, while still stressing the value of abstinence, they accept that students may have sex before marriage, and so they seek to inform students on how to protect themselves and make healthy decisions. This is seen as a more realistic way to teach sex education, and it may be more effective. Multiple studies, including one done by the National Campaign to Prevent Teen and Unplanned Pregnancy and the National Survey of Family Growth, found that abstinence plus programs were effective at reaching the key goals of sex education. This research suggests that abstinence plus education should be the primary or only form of sex education in the United States if we want programs that efficiently produce positive results. So this answered my research question, but I was still frustrated by how varied many abstinence-only and abstinence-plus programs could be because of the lack of standardization. I wanted to pinpoint a few more specific subjects that could be implemented or improved upon in sex education to make them more effective. One of the major ones I came across was gender and sexual orientation. Currently, neither the framework for abstinence-only or abstinence-plus education includes any information about gender and sexual orientation. And 7 states actually have legislature that specifically outlaws any education that may promote homosexuality. This gap in the curricula can leave LGBTQ+ individuals feeling isolated and even discriminated against. And it leaves these sexual minorities without the important information they need to make healthy choices for their bodies. Abstinence-only programs have also shown to be particularly damaging to these individuals because they stress that heterosexual marriage is an essential part of a healthy sexual relationship. Another topic that has recently made people reconsider sex education in our schools is the exceedingly high number of sexual assault on college campuses. It is estimated that 20%, or 1 in 5 college women, will become victims of sexual assault. One factor that may be contributing to this extremely high number is that consent education is not normally included in sex education programs. This can leave people confused about what exactly what qualifies as consent. This is why, in last October, California became the first state to mandate that affirmative, or yes means yes, consent education be taught in all high schools. Senator Kevin De Leon, a sponsor of the bill, stated his hope that lessons taught today will result in safer campuses and communities tomorrow. So, for my internship, I was lucky enough to have 2 mentors to work with. The first of which was Dr. Joseph P. Allen, a psychology professor at the University of Virginia. I got to sit in on a few of his lecture classes where he discussed peer intimacy and loneliness, sexuality, and gender roles, and it gave me a better look into why, psychologically, teens seek out romantic and sexual relationships. My second mentor was Mary Sullivan, who works as the community educator at the UVA Teen Health Center. She was able to get me a scholarship to attend the annual UVA Teen Culture Conference, where healthcare professionals from around the country come to discuss issues facing adolescents today, including unintended pregnancy. She was also kind enough to let me interview her for my project, so I got to see the inside opinion of someone who's been working with teen education for many years. I unfortunately was not able to take that many pictures. Both of my internship settings were in professional educational settings, so I didn't want to whip out a camera and start taking lots of pictures. But here's a picture of me in front of Gilmore Hall, which is where I sat in on the psychology lectures. And the last picture is some of the pamphlets and the name tag that I got at the team. For my community service, I worked alongside Renee Phillip, a teacher here at Orange County High School, to develop a 2-day lesson plan to teach her Biology 2 students about sexually transmitted infections and ways to protect yourself against them. The information was very well received, and all the students were very respectful and asked great questions, and I'd like to give a special thanks to Ms. Phillip for allowing me to teach that class. In January, I also spoke in front of the Orange County School Board to advocate for implementation of sex education in the 9th grade health class curriculum. I hope that for the significance of my project, I can open the conversation about how important sex education is, and maybe in the future, we'll see it implemented here at Orange County High School. I also hope that the lessons I taught to Ms. Phillips' Biology 2 class will help them make better informed decisions for themselves and their bodies in the future. What I learned from this project is that definitely my biggest academic weakness is my tendency to make mountains out of molehills. I've been worrying about this project since I was a freshman, sitting in this library watching these presentations, and in reality the project was a lot of fun, and I shouldn't have been as worried as I was. My advice to future governor school seniors is that don't get too discouraged or take things too personally when you're first trying to put together your internship and your community service. You're going to be faced with a lot of unanswered phone calls and emails, and it can get really disheartening. But you just have to keep looking for other opportunities that are out there. I promise there's some really kind people out there that are willing to help you. Thank you. And any questions?
Class like this taken to a freshman class is what you were thinking about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they are mature enough as a freshman to take a class like that, or would you rather wait till junior or senior year to do that?
I think they are. Studies show that teenagers are having sex even when they're 14 or 15, around freshman age, and I think it's really important to inform them when the time that they would be experiencing those things, and not to leave them, uninformed. And obviously there's going to be students who, make jokes about it. But like I said with my SUD presentation that I did in Ms. Phillips, I was actually really surprised at how respectful all the students were. all the questions were on topic and respectful. No one was like cracking jokes during it. Like I expected some laughter, but everyone was really respectful. So I don't know. I think definitely that there are freshman classes that are mature enough. Yeah.
So I have two questions. The first one is, so did you do any research in other countries at all? What type of sexual education takes place, and if like statistics on STDs or anything like that is the same? Or is this a United States specific type of problem, or is it a worldwide type of thing? Like, did you see anything like that?
I didn't really, but I do know that there are lots of European countries who have very progressive sex education programs where instead of doing like 1 year when they're freshmen, they get the course. It's more of like a gradual, they're introduced to sex and gender as they grow up. That's what's appropriate to them. And those are seen to be more effective programs.
And so my second question was, I think a lot of times what you see is people will say, well, why isn't this the responsibility of parents and family, and why is this a thing where we're putting that, like, why is it something they're learning in school, why isn't it a parental thing? So I guess my question is there another thing outside of sex education in the school that like can get a conversation started with families or something like that, like, hey, talk to your kids about this or something like that? Is there any sort of initiative or anything like that to get this going in the family rather than in the school?
I didn't see like specific initiatives, and it is definitely great if parents are open with their children. You know, if your children are asking questions, then they're probably old enough to get a little bit information about it. But the bottom line is that a lot of parents aren't comfortable talking about their kids with this, and a lot of kids aren't comfortable talking about their parents with this. You know, a lot of kids don't want to go to their parents and be like, hey, I'm having sex. What does this mean? So that's where, like, the school is like a middleman that can make it a more open topic that kids are more. Yes.
So along that same question with being a parent, how much of a role would the parents, or how much of a role do the parents play in a lot of these programs in terms of their input into what is being taught? You said that the schools would act as a middleman, and that some students aren't comfortable talking to their parents about these issues. But other than who you vote for and the democratic process that we have, how much feedback do the parents get about what's going on? How much input do they get? Are there materials in a lot of these programs that go home to parents? What did you find when you were doing research for that?
Well, I don't know the exact number, but the vast majority of states have laws that require schools to send information home that their students will be receiving sex education, and parents can choose to opt their children out if they want, or then they can choose to get more information about it. Also, just parents being involved with like school board meetings and understanding what's happening in their district and community is really the best way that they can get involved with what their students are learning in school.
Did you come across any information on how many high school girls are victims of sexual abuse?
I didn't actually. It was all just college research because it's such a hot topic right now. So many Ivy League schools are coming out with like being investigated on how they deal with sexual assault. But I assume the number isn't that much smaller than what we see at colleges.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice job.